Yeah, today we will be studying the Kushanas. But before we begin with the Kushanas, I will give you guys a brief account of what happened after the Shatavahana dynasty ended. Like I say, some of the territories were taken over by the Western Kshatrabas, but there were small kingdoms like the Chutus, the Ishwakus, and Abiras. Of these three kingdoms, the Ishwakus is important. And there's nothing much to learn about these three kingdoms, except that the Ishwakus, they emerged in Andhra region, and their important center was Vijayapuri, Nagarjuna Konta. And that's all you need to know about the Ishwakus. And the rest, you just need to know the name of the kingdoms, Abiras and Chutus, and Western Kshatrabas. We have already covered that in our previous lesson. So these were the small kingdoms that came after the decline of the Shatavahanas. Okay? That came after the decline of the Shatavahanas. You can check the details from YouTube after the class session ends. And so this is the Kushanas. Okay? This is the Kushanas. During the reign of the Kushanas, which kingdom ruled India? In some areas, the Shatavahanas, okay, and in some areas, the Shakas. Is that clear? The Shakas ruled at the western part of India, the Western Kshatrabas, and the northwest part of India, and the Shatavahanas ruled the central part of India. And the Kushanas will conquer each of them one by one. And even the Indo-Greeks ruled the Kantara region beyond the northwest. The Kushanas will conquer the Indo-Greeks. It will come and then it will conquer the Shakas, okay, and also the kingdoms that came after the Shatavahanas, the small kingdoms. They will conquer all of them one by one and create a very large Kushana empire in India. Now, this is the background of the Kushanas. Okay, the Kushanas were tribal people that belonged to the Yuchi or Yuzi clan, which was a group of nomadic tribes from Central Asia. Okay, their original homeland was around the northwest China or the Gansu region. Now I will switch to the map. Okay, like I said, the Kushanas, they belong to the Yuchi tribe, a group of nomadic tribes. Nomads means people who move from one place to another, and they originally resided in the Gansu region. Okay, and they had a fierce battle in the 2nd century BC against Xiongnu tribe, and the Xiongnu tribe defeated and trashed the Kushanas, and they had to move away. They flee from the Gansu region all the way to the Bactria. And who controlled the Bactria region? The future generations of Alexander, the Indo-Greeks, right? The Indo-Greeks controlled the Bactria region. They reached the Bactria region. That's still outside of India, okay? They reached the Bactria region and they defeated the Indo-Greeks and they controlled this region, which is in modern Afghanistan, okay? They defeated the Indo-Greeks in Bactria. They settled there. The first king, Chola, this emerged from this area. So the Yuchi tribe was divided into, the Kushanas were divided into 5 Yuchi tribes. And one of these was the Kushana branch, okay? So the Kushana chief, Chola, the first Kushana chief, eventually united the 5 Yuzi group here. And once he united all the 5 Yuzi group, they went and they conquered the Kantara Punjab region, okay? And eventually the future kings conquered the territories of India one by one. So that is the background of the Kushana Empire. Originally, they were from Gansu region of China, and they lost the battle against Xiongnu tribe in the 2nd century BC, and then they had to move away from Gansu region. They came all the way to Bactria and defeated the Indo-Greeks. They settled here, and there were 5 Yuzi tribes, Yuzi clans or Yuzi tribe, and Kushana clan was also one of the clans of the Yuzi clan, okay, Yuzi conglomerate. Now, Chola of the Kushana clan was able to unite all the 5 Yuzi tribe, and once he was able to unite all the 5 Yuzi tribe, they came to northwest part of India, and they conquered this part of India. and eventually they would go on to conquer the rest of India. Okay, and they would also form trade routes from here, from there, Mathura, all the way up to Central Asia and so forth. Okay, they even had maritime trade routes from here to here, which I will explain in the later slides. But this is the background of the Kushanas in a nutshell. Okay, so you can go through the details. All the details are written there, all the explanations. Now, these are the kings and their achievements. Okay, before we go with the explanation, I just want to mention the kings. Now, Chola Kataphysis or Katphysis was the first king of the Kushana Empire. He was a founder of the Kushana dynasty. He was the one who united the 5 Yuzi tribe. Okay, and he established the Kushana power in the region of Gandhara and Kapur. Gandhara and Kapul area. Okay, and the greatest Kushana, the second king was Vima Kataphysis. The greatest Kushana ruler was Kanishka I. Now, what is the date of his ascension, or in which year did he start his rule? I mentioned yesterday that in NCERT, this is the exact phrase mentioned in NCERT. 78 Common Era, there's a question mark, which means even NCERT is not sure. So your best bet is 78 CE. If they ever ask in the examination, Kanishka's rule started in 78 CE. But even NCERT mentions that accession date disputed. Okay, accession date disputed. So I will not add anything beyond NCERT. So that's 78 CE. Kanishka's rule started in 78 CE. He was the greatest Kushana ruler. He extended the empire from Central Asia, the place where Chola Kataphysis founded the Kushana Empire, all the way up till Patliputra. It was Kanishka, okay, who went all the way till Patliputra and extended the empire. Kanishka was a Buddhist, okay, and he convened the 4th Buddhist Council. I talked about the first, the second, third, and the fourth. The first was Ajatashatru after Haryanga dynasty. Kalashoka, second after Nanda dynasty. Who was the third? Does anyone remember? Ashoka. Okay, Ashoka was the third. Ashoka was the next king who convened the 3rd Buddhist Council, and the 4th Buddhist Council was convened under the patronage of Kanishka. Okay, these are the 4 Buddhist councils are very important, and each king is also very important. Okay. Now he also promoted Gandhara and Mathura art. We will learn about the Gandhara and Mathura art in the next following slides, but it's very important for all of you to understand that the Gandhara and Mathura art first appears in the Kushana lecture, right? I'm teaching Gandhara and Mathura art in the Kushana lecture. Why? Because bits and pieces of Gandhara and Mathura art existed, okay? The themes existed, the kind of painting, the kind of sculpture, everything existed, but it became specialized. It became very popular. The development was so vast and so prevalent during the Kushana time that the emergence of Gandhara and Mathura as a proper art form occurred during the Kushana era. But it wasn't the Kushana era where the Gandhara and Mathura art originated, but it flourished under the patronage of the Kushana kings, more specifically Kanishka. Okay, Gandhara and Mathura art are still popular in today's world, and these two art will be discussed very briefly in the following few slides. Now, after Kanishka came Huvishka, not important. Vasudeva, the last important Kushana ruler. What's important about Vasudeva is that his coins show the increasing influence of Indian deities, Shiva, Skanda. Now, if you talk about Shiva, we're talking about Hinduism, right? So, if you look at the Kushana rulers, some of them were Buddhists, some of them were Hindus, okay? So, it was a combination of these two religions. Now, just to give you guys a brief idea about how each king continued to consolidate the Kushana Empire in the Indian subcontinent. Chola Katphysis from Bactria He united the 5 user group. He came to northwest part of India and he conquered the northwest part of India. Vima Katphisis, right? He conquered the western Kshatrapas and the Indo-Parthians. Indo-Parthians is a little up and then it's a little lower, okay? Both these two are the Shakas, right? The western Kshatrapas and the Indo-Parthians or the Indo-Scythians, which resided in the northwest part of India. And expansion under Kushana successors all the way up till Patliputra, Kanishka and the other successors, okay? Kanishka is here, the other successors. Now, this is how the Kushana Empire slowly grew in India, and it reached all the way till here, almost the entirety of Indian subcontinent. But still, people, archaeologists, they estimate that the overall extent of Ashoka's territory, the Mauryan Empire, was around 5,000 square kilometers. Okay, but the Kushana Empire was around 2,500 to 2,000 square kilometers, which means the largest empire ever known in the history of Indian subcontinent is still the Mauryan Empire. Ashoka is still the boss, okay? But Kushana Empire was almost as large as the Mauryan Empire. Now, we will talk about the Silk Route. The reason why we need to talk about the Silk Route is because the Kushana Empire was very popular for that Silk Route. And they gained a lot of money, and it was because of the flourishing economy during the Kushana Empire that they were able to pay the soldiers well, they were able to maintain a large standing army, they were able to conquer India. So this Silk Route was very important to the Kushanas. Now this Silk Route traveled all the way from China. Right? They do not only, do you guys know that the Silk Road, the silk that we make from the Silk Road, that secret was hidden in China for centuries and centuries and centuries. Okay, the Chinese silk was very high in demand in other areas, especially the Romans. The Romans loved the Chinese silk. Okay, now not only silk but other items as well. It traveled from China, and it reached the Kushana Empire in 2 ways, and it traveled to Central Asia, and it could also travel from sea route. Okay. Now I will explain it in the later slides, but this is how the Silk Route map looked like during the Kushana Empire. Okay, we'll learn in detail in the next slide. See, from India. Okay, let's say all the products reach India, or let's say the Kushana Empire themselves will have goods. They will also have producers to export, and they will also have exports from China. Let's say every good is stationed in India. Now, how do they travel from India all the way to the rest of the world? This is how they travel from India all the way to the rest of the world. They have 2 options, okay? They have 2 options. You can look at the India map. This is the India map, right? This is the India map. So from Barigaza or Baruch, okay, they would go by ship via Arabian Sea, and they would reach the place of Oman. This is the Arabian Peninsula, okay? If you guys know Cristiano Ronaldo, he plays for Al Nassr, which is a club based in Riyadh. And Riyadh is a city in Saudi Arabia, and this is where Saudi Arabia is. And we also have other countries such as Qatar, Iraq, and so forth. This is the Arabian Peninsula, okay? It would reach via ship, sea route to the port here or the port here, okay? And then from the port, the goods would travel by camel. Imagine how dangerous would have been for the camels to travel all the way till Myos Hermos or maybe Alexandria. Okay, if it's Myos Hermos or if it's Berenike, they would reach here, and then they would travel by ship, reach Berenike, and then take the camel, and then this is the Nile River, right? They would use the Nile River, and they would travel via ship, and then they would reach the place called Alexandria, and from Alexandria they would travel by ship all the way till Rome, Italy, okay, the European Empire. So that's how they conducted the trade. The other method was by using caravans, a group of merchants traveling together. They would use this from Barigaza. They would travel by camel via Central Asia. Okay, via Central Asia, from here to here to here, and then again take a ship, reach the Roman Empire. Is that clear? This is how this is how the two great corridors of the Kushana Empire functioned. Okay, we have the Red Sea Road. We also have the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Desert Road. Right, this. Okay. So, Indian art and culture under the Kushanas. The two main schools of art were the Gandhara and the Mathura school of art during the Kushana period. Now, if you look at the Gandhara school of art, there's one very distinct characteristic, which is the color gray. Okay, both these two use stones. They are made of stones. But what kind of stones? It's schist. Okay, gray schist. Gray schist is a type of stones that you will find in rivers and various other locations. It occurs as stratus layer. Okay, and Mathura school of art use red sandstone. Okay, so the Gandhara school of art had a Hellenistic influence. It had a strong Greco-Roman influence. I talked about that, right? The Hellenism. Okay, so the origin of Hellenism in India dates back to the time of Seleucus Nicator. Okay, one of the rulers of the Indo-Greeks. I talked about how after Alexander passed away, his generals divided the kingdom among themselves, and then a part of Central Asia was taken over by Seleucus Nicator. Okay, and it was Seleucus Nicator who had contacts with India and who fought against Indian rulers for the control of northwest India. And during that time, the Indians, they copied the Hellenistic characteristics of art. Okay, so the Gandhara school of art had a very strong Greco-Roman Hellenistic influence. I talked about realism, right? Realism. Now, if you look at the Mathura school of art, there's a lot of their focus is on symbols and themes and what the statue should convey. But here, it's much more realistic, right? It's much more realistic. Look at the fold of the clothes. Look at the fold of the clothes, the facial structure, the details. It's more realistic, okay? Realistic human forms, wavy hair, draped robes. You can see that naturalistic folds, calm and serene expression, and mainly Buddhist themes, okay? Now we look at, and so Gandhara art, obviously it's going to be their main center of influence would be northwest India, right? Northwest India, where they are bordered with the Indo-Greeks, and that's how they got influenced by the Greco-Roman Hellenistic influence, Hellenistic art. Now we look at Mathura art. It's purely Indian. Okay, Mathura art is purely Indian, indigenous Indian influence. Okay, mostly based in Uttar Pradesh. The material used was red sandstone. Okay, so now these are some features that you can know about the Gandhara school of art. The Gandhara school of art, the region is northwest India. The material used was grey schist. The influence was Hellenistic influence, Greco-Roman influence, and that's it. And realistic human figures. Okay, realistic human figures. These are the four features that you can memorize about the Gandhara school of art. And Mathura school of art, fully indigenous, no Roman influence, no Greco-Roman influence, no Hellenistic influence, nothing. Fully indigenous. The material used was red sandstone. The region was Uttar Pradesh. And one feature of the Gandhara school of art is very broad face and open eyes. Okay, here calm serene expression, usually closed. Okay, the eyes are usually closed. And Mathura school of art, usually Buddhist, Jain and Brahmanical themes, but here mainly Buddhist themes. Okay, is that clear? Now religious developments in the post-Mauryan period. Okay, so this is the post-Mauryan period. What are the religious developments? It's very important for all of us to know what happened after the Mauryas. This includes the Shakas, the Shungas, the Kanvas, the Shatavahanas, the Shakas, everything. Okay, post-Mauryan period. All these come under the post-Mauryan era. We have looked at Buddhism, we have looked at Jainism, we have looked at Brahmanical Hinduism. Okay, just to give you guys a brief overview, of everything that we studied up to date, we also saw mainly the spread of Bhagavata and the Shiva cult. Okay, Bhagavata, a kind of a cult of Hinduism, and we also saw the emergence of local and tribal deities into mainstream traditions. We also saw the belief in karma, rebirth, liberation, okay, which forms part of liberation, forms part of Jainism, right? And then karma, rebirth forms part of both Jainism and Buddhism. We saw the spread of cults and new religious ideas. We also see the Brahmanical Hinduism, okay? Now, the impact of religious developments during the time, it promoted social harmony and ethical values, okay? The ethical values of the people were guided by religious principles. They also encourage art. The Mathura and Gandhara school of art have both religious themes. Literature and architecture, it spread Indian culture beyond its borders, and it created a lasting legacy in Indian civilization. Okay. Now we talked about the Sanji Stupa in our previous classes. We talked about the Tirthankaras. There were 24 Tirthankaras, and Vardhamina Mahavira was the 24th Tirthankara, and there were 23 Tirthankaras before him. We saw the Vishnu panel, Pesnagar pillar, Madhya Pradesh. Now, stupa. Okay, let's discuss the stupa, because this is the most important structure of Buddhism. Now, if you look at the stupa, okay, we talked about the Sanji Stupa, which was first created by Ashoka, and this is how the stupa looks like. The top of the stupa is known as chhatra. Okay, it's an umbrella-like structure symbolizing spiritual honor and protection. Okay, it symbolizes spiritual honor and protection. Next, we have the harmika, square as the poksase, square railing on top of the dome, representing the abode of the gods. We also have the anda, which is a dome shape. Anda, this is called anda. The dome shape is called anda, representing the Buddha and the cosmos. Okay, everything is symbolic. We also have the Vedya, railing along the stupa, marking the sacred boundary. This is the Vedya. It marks the boundary, okay, the sacred boundary. And we also have the Pratakshina Pata, which is inside this fence, the circular path. The devotees can walk around it to meditate, to seek, moksha, nirvana, and so forth. And Torana is the gateway. So this, if they ask you, they might ask you mainly about Torana, Pradakshina, and then the Chhatra. The remaining, they might not ask you these three, they might not ask you, but Chhatra, Pradakshina, and Torana, these three are important. Okay, please don't skip it. Please do not skip it. The stupa is a very important structure of the monument of the Buddhist religion. And another type of monument, another type of structure, another type of building was the Chaitya and the Viharas. Chaitya means prayer halls and Viharas means monasteries. Okay, so we can think of Vihara like a hostel, a PG, and Chaitya like a church. Chaitya is a place where people come in to worship, and Viharas is a monastic residence, kind of like a PG with rooms around a courtyard used by Buddhist monks. Okay, so Chaitya prayer hall, Viharas monasteries. That's also another type of building during the Buddhist era. And like I said, Torana is very important, the gateway of the stupa. Okay, the important sites we already discussed about that, the Sanji Stupa, okay, which is the stupa that we just discussed. And we also have the Barhut, known for its early railings and panels depicting Jataka tales. These railings will depict the Jataka tales. What are Jataka tales? The stories of Gautama Buddha. I talked about Gautama Buddha going through 550 births, right? And each birth story is known as a Jataka. So we have 550 Jatakas, okay? Amaravati, we also talked about that, which is in Andhra Pradesh. This is the Buddhist architecture in the post-Mauryan period. And in the post-Mauryan period, we also had Shrenis, okay? A Shreni was an organized association of people engaged in a particular occupation or economic activity. For example, a a group of weavers would form a guild or shrenis. A group of metal workers would form a group or shrenis. Potters group, shrenis. Okay, this group was known as a shreni. Okay, it was a guild. People who play games will know the meaning of guild. We go, a character would go inside the game. A character would go and would buy some items from a shop, which is known as a guild. Okay, and every guild is specialized in the sense that one particular guild is where you will find weapons, and in other guilds maybe you will find magic, so forth, right? Guilds are very popular in games. Okay, so this is Shreni. Okay, you can take a look at it. The pictures: organize production, regulate professional activity, support members in times of need, kind of like a cooperative society of today's world. Participate in economic transactions, make donations to religious institutions. Okay, so the guild or the shrenis are association of people engaged in a particular occupation. And let's say there's a group of merchants who formed a guild. Okay, this guild will sponsor the building of Buddhist monasteries, and he would also sponsor wars. And if the king wins the war, the king would strongly favor this guild, and they also have political influence in this way. Okay. Now this is the chronology of North Indian history. This is the chronology of North Indian history. It's a little too small for your. It's very visible in the tablet. Okay, for you guys, don't worry. We studied about the post-Mauryan period, and the post-Mauryan period, the Shungas, the Ganvas, the Shatavahanas. We studied everything, and we also studied about the Shakas. The northwest Shakas were called Indo-Scythians or Indo-Parthians, and we also studied the Kushanas just now. Okay. About the Kushanas, you need to know Chola Kataphysis. Kataphysis was the first ruler, and Kanishka was the most important ruler. Kanishka extended the empire all the way up till Patliputra, and two major art forms was the Gandhara and Mathura art, and they were important. I talked about the Silk Road, and these are the facts that you need to know. Okay, about the Kushana Empire. Now, after the end of the Kushanas, we can see that the next popular kingdom is the Gupta Empire, right? Do we switch to Gupta, or are we going too ahead and we're ignoring what happened in South India? So what I'm going to do is that next we are going to learn about South India. Okay, we will stop here for North India. We will stop here. We will end North India session with the Kushanas. We just completed the Kushanas. Now we will move to South India, and we will try to keep up with the development in timeline. We will study South India, and we will try to reach around 300 CE, and then we will switch to North India. Right now I've completed Kushanas, and between the Kushanas and Gupta Empire, I will study about the first official kingdom of South India, the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. Okay, and then after I'm done with it, I will follow it up with the following few kingdoms, 2 to 3, and then we will come back to the Gupta Empire. Is that okay? Is that okay? And this way, you know which is South India, you know which is North India. Up to date, we studied only about North and Central India. We didn't study about South India. Now, what proof do we have that South India was not under the control of the Mauryas or post-Mauryas? There's a specific inscription written by Ashoka, and it talks about a kingdom in South India, the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas, and he specifically mentions that these kingdoms were beyond the extent of his kingdom. Okay? He didn't control South India. No one controls South India. We don't even know what happened in South India before 300 BC. All we have are proofs of stones, which we call the Megalithic culture. You will learn about it. Up to from 2000 BC all the way up to maybe 300 BC. Nothing happened. Nothing pretty much happened. They were villagers. Okay? They used metal. They used iron. That's what we know. And then they created megaliths using large stones. Okay, in South India. And after which came the first known kingdom, the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas in South India. Okay, so forget about North India. Forget entirely about North India. We will come back to North India. We will connect Kushanas, a post-Kushana period with the Gupta Empire, and then we will move on. Okay, Now we go to South India. So I will teach you guys sequentially, don't worry. Now we will move to South India. And in South India, this is South India, okay? This is South India. This is South India. This part of South India was never conquered by any kingdom. They lived independently up till date. I have not mentioned anything about South India. I haven't taught you guys anything about South India. I don't even know what happened before 300 BC. All I know is that it was a Megalithic age. Okay? After the end of the Megalithic age in 300 BC, all the way up till 380, which means 300 BC to year 1, 300 years, year 1 to 380, 300 years. So 600 years, okay? It's called Sangam age. But before the Sangam age came the Megalithic age. There was this Megalithic age in South India. Ki hushi kunbi nazine, okay? Ki kingdom ase, eko kingdom nai. We learned about Indus Valley civilization, we learned about early later Vedic age, we learned about a lot of things, but everything happened in Central and North India. In South India, nothing happened. It was just a Megalithic age where they used iron heavily and they used stones very heavily. So here, what is Megalithic? Okay, now this is a period of the Megalithic culture. It was contemporary to the later Vedic period. Later Vedic period spanned from 1000 to 600 BC. Okay, 1000 to 600 BC. It was contemporary to later Vedic period. All of touch Korea, early Vedic period be, and even after later Vedic period, the Mahajanapadas, 6th century Jainism and Buddhism be touch Korea. Obviously, Mauryan Empire be touch Korea, but primarily the later Vedic period and then the Iron Age or the Megalithic Age. Okay, the Megalithic Age is also known as Iron Age. So this is a period. And what is Megalithic? The term Megalithic means big stone. Okay, see, this is the dolmen, known as dolmen in Brahmagiri, Karnataka. Okay, South India there. The term Megalithic means big stone. You can see that the stone is big, obviously. And it refers to the culture tradition of constructing large stone monuments, often associated with burial practices. People of this age used iron tools and weapons and were skilled in agriculture, animal husbandry, pottery, and bead making. So as you can see, they used large stones, and these were mostly burial sites. Kile utu pitorde mohan manula hardigan baise. Okay, manula hardigan baise. Manula hardy lote saman kan rakhina kiki kan. So manukuma murias if someone has passed away, right? Murishe and then taige bury kodishe underneath the Megalithic structure. Aru utu bitore, if you find ornaments, if you find some food items, what does it say? To khandan manon taige afterlife lu jau diole nagi. Na, if there are a lot of people, a lot of archaeologists, they assume that the Megalithic people believe in the afterlife. Okay, I hope you guys can connect. Now there are different types of Megalithic burial types. Kumba the ash te, ash Chola gina pitore ash thake. Kumba the direct pit burial bi thake, cis burial bi thake, stone slab pitore thali gina. Or kidu kumba the Megalithic circles. It would have taken them a lot of effort to make a circle using large stones. So maybe again archaeologists they assume that maybe tun manu thagise, dangor manu thagise, rich manu thagise, maybe king bi thakibo pare, chief bi thakibo pare, iman dak pathor kan man dangor thakada. Okay, that's also another assumption that we can make. Large stones set in a circle there. We also have the dolmen, chamber formed by upright stones with a capstone on top. This is called dolmen. Menhir, single upright stone set in ground, usually larger than dolmen. And sarcophagus, stone coffin takpi thagis de. Sometimes even with a lid. To do ando ki jane tun manu ho pare. Na burial chambers cut in the rocks or hill slopes. So as you can see, utuanso Megalithic burial types thagise. Major sites: Brahmagiri, Maski, Halur, Karnataka, Payampali. You don't need to know all these names, just know that Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra, the area that Hagishe. Okay, and material culture utuan ase. You guys get black and red ware. What did I tell about black and red ware? What are these pots made of? They are made of clay. What's the color of clay? Red. And if we burn clay, what color does it become? Black. So when we talk about the black and red ware, even in Indus Valley civilization, I talked about black and red ware, right? The black and red ware simply means the color of the pot, natural color of the pot, and some areas of it burned for design, for intricate designs. Okay, so when you burn it, it becomes black. They're coloring it with the technique Chola. Okay, so burn technique na. Also black ware and red ware. So if it's fully black, fully burnt, then black ware, and if it's not burned at all, red. Now it's very obvious. So it's just a science behind burning out pots by the fire. Now drying up pots by the fire. Now we move to the kingdoms. Okay, the Megalithic culture, 1200 BC, all the way up till 300 BC. Okay, always remember kingdoms kan iku nai de. South India, the kingdoms kan iku nai. We don't know nothing about what happened before the Megalithic period. All we know is that Megalithic culture tagishe, and using various scientific means. I talked about maybe carbon dating. Maybe they use carbon dating by measuring the loss of C14 content, the C14 isotope in an ancient object. They might have guessed the age of the tools, weapons. We have no idea. But all we know is that 1200 BC all the way up to 300 BC, no history is known about South India except that it had a Megalithic culture, use of big stones. Okay, usually the Megalithic structures kando for burial. Aro dangor kunba circles kande dagishe, kunba chutukan dagishe, the dangor circles kando ki jane thun manu laho pare. Aro inside that Megalithic structure, the dead body loaded the skeleton la next day kha saman khan, ornaments khan, jewelers khan paise, which means afterlife they believe kore Megalithic people in a assumption khan banaise. Okay, but the actual kingdom and the actual inscription that we have about that helps us know about the history of South India is the Sangam period. Okay, the Sangam age, 300 BC to 300 CC CE, Common Era, or AD, 300 BC to 300 AD is known as Sangam age. And during that Sangam age, three kingdoms ruled: Cheras, Cholas, and Pandyas. South India will do first as a day. Don't forget, these three are the first three kingdoms: the Cholas, the Cheras, and the Pandyas. Okay? Now I've explained that. And the Cheras, look at the Cheras. This is called Western Ghats though. Western Ghats, na? Mountain. Okay? And this part is called Eastern Ghats. Eastern Ghats. Now you will find it in geography, the importance of Western and Eastern Ghats. But for now, let's just say group of mountains here and a group of mountains here. This is called Eastern Ghats. This is called Western Ghats. Okay. Now you look at Cheras. Cheras to Western Ghat fani thagishe, and the important place, the important center was Garur. Bishi important as they Cheras, Garur, Cholas, Ureyur, and Kaveri Patinam, and Pandyas, Maturai. And whenever we study, we usually say Pandyas and Maturai, Pandyas and Maturai. Okay. These Pandyas are also known as the Kingdom of Pearls. Okay, because they used to fish pearls for trades, for trading. Okay, Kingdom of Pearls. Cheras, Cholas, and Pandyas ini bhabisabe kiman strategic location there is a coastal area there as well. One has the Arabian Sea, one has the Bay of Bengal, and one has the combination of both, the Indian Ocean. Okay, all these three were in coastal areas. So the Cheras, Cholas, and Pandyas, they ruled, and sometimes the Chola territory would be as large as this, and sometimes the Chera territory would be as small as this, or sometimes even as large as this. Exchange hagishe, one war after another. Na Chera la king jaina, Chola la king ge moravo, Chola la king jaina, aro Pandya la king ge moravo. Chucha chuchi pishi hagishe. But kind of like Nagaland, tribe kan alag ase, language be alop alag ho bare, but the terms that we use are all the same. Na Tobashi, chutu mutu kan terms kan. So kind of like Nagaland. if Nagaland had lived during the period of the Sangam age, would be like this tribal warfare nishnana. But then Kalo be same, Atat be same, so be same. Bole Chakra khile. Inala thagis Chola Chera Sara Pandyas do. Now, before we move on to the rest of the details about the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas, it's very important to know the literature. Okay, of that time, because it is through this literature that we understand the history of South India, the history of the Cholas, Cheras, and the Pandyas. Okay, now if you look at it, what is Sangam literature? A rich collection of ancient Tamil poems composed by poets known as Pulavars. Okay, the poets were called Pulavars who participated in the Sangam. Okay, now this is the Sangam assembly, and it provides valuable information about the political, social, economic, and cultural life of early South India. It was composed in Tamil language. Again, very important. Okay, and it was mainly secular in nature. This is the most important feature of Sangam literature. It was mainly secular in nature. Okay, all the poems that they wrote, it wasn't in praise of gods. It was in praise of heroes, in praise of kings. Okay, in praise of warriors, in praise of great lovers, and so forth. It was secular, which means non-religious. Religion thanganai. But if you look at the literature of North India, usually it's religious. Okay, Sangam literature is non-secular, but you can't write it's entirely non-secular. You just have to write it's mostly non-secular, because some may be divinely inspired, a little bit, 1% out of 100%. So which makes it non-definitive, right? It was mainly secular in nature. Another very important about Sangam literature. Now, you look at the entire Sangam corpus. The Sangam literature had three main evolutionary period. The first, Thalai Sangam. The second, Itai Sangam. The third, Karai Sangam. Okay. Now, first and second, Thalai and Itai Sangam, Hari Jayashide already. It's only mentioned in inscriptions that Utu Thakishe. But Utula written account on Nai. We don't have any proof. We only have proof about the third Sangam. So whatever we know about the kingdoms, whatever we know about the Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, everything comes from the third Sangam. Got it? So patrons were Pandya kings, and Pandya king. Now, since I mentioned that all the patrons are Pandya kings, doesn't mean that this Sangam, these three Sangams belonged only to the Pandya kingdom. No, okay? It was a collection of Chola, Chera, Pandya poets, everything, but mainly Pandya kings can be patronized Kori Thakishe. Now, duration 4,400, you don't need to know this. Only thing you need to know is that existing Sangam literature belongs to this literature, Karai Sangam. Okay, the third Sangam. And in the Sangam literature, have you guys come across Mani Mekalai Sangam, the epics, the twin epics of Tamil literature, Silapati Karam, Mani Mekalai. Okay, all you need to know is that Sangam period na alakpok iku purili no ide. Sangam period there's only two. I assure you guys there's only two. The Etu Tokoy and the Patu Patu. Okay, then idols and then 8 anthologies. These are all poems, okay? Poems, or in other words, poems. Mainly love, public life, heroism, war, generosity, society. And again, Patu Pati is also a poem, but a very long one. Okay? Now, just take a look at this. They use these 5 techniques, okay, in Akam poetry. It's called Akam poetry. Gurinji, mountains, Mulai, forest, Marutham, agriculture plains, Natal, seashore, Palai, arid wasteland. And they follow this very strictly, okay, in almost every poems that of Sangam literature, in those 10 ideals and 8 anthologies, you will find that they follow these rules very strictly. Now, love in union, Gurinji mountains, okay, and then Mulai, patient waiting, Murutham, domestic waiting, Nital, longing, Palai, separation. So if the poem is about two lovers meeting each other and having a good time, it'll usually be in the mountains. Okay, it'll usually be in the mountains. Or if the girl is waiting for the king, if the girl is waiting for his lover, it'll usually be in the forest, in green pastures, in pastoral areas. Okay, a lovely place. And if both the lovers are, living a good married life, it'll usually be the agricultural plains. Okay, dhan kan katela, kiki kan katela, utu thake. And if utu maigira motage rukhiaze, na longingness thake, ayamola motakite awo. Usually the seashore de thake, sindo. Okay, and lastly, tajon chara jari hoise, munduk hoise, heartbreak kan hoise. Usually the arid, the deserted, barren land, na utu technique pasta chulai de. Very interesting, right? Very interesting. So these were the 5 techniques used in the poems of the Sangam period. Okay, is that clear? The Sangam literature. Now, along with the Sangam literature, I've included a few other literature, but which you will find in the next slide. Okay, so information from Sangam literature. All these poems, okay, they talk about the kings, they talk about the queens, they talk about the warriors, they talk about the culture, the society of the Sangam age, how they practice agriculture, what kind of food they ate. All the information were derived from the Sangam literature. Okay, the 10 ideals and the 8 anthologies, the Etutokoi. Okay, now through the Sangam literature, we learn about the polity, the political structure, the society, economy, religion and beliefs, art and culture, geography. Know that everything we know about the Sangam age came from these two. Okay, came from these two. Is that clear? Now, other major works after Sangam period. With the Sangam period la noide, but I've included it because I want you guys to study everything together. Now South India la important literature as well as the Sangam period la 8 anthologies and the 10 ideals and the 5 great Tamil epics, okay, and Tolkappiyam and Patinenkilkanaku, the 18 minor works. Okay, good luck with trying to memorize that. And of these 18 minor works, this is very important. 18 minor works, you just need to know this and you need to know this. Okay, with the 18 pitorde Tirukolal sabse important aze. That's it. And you need to know this Tolkappiyam, the earliest Tamil grammar. Okay, earliest Tamil grammar. You need to know this. And details can no purive. You know it's about grammar. It's about language. It's about it might serve as a kind of a lexicon. Okay, we have. So that's Tolkappiyam related to grammar and the 18 minor works. Okay, Patinel Kilkanaku, and within these 18 minor works, the Tirukural is the most important. Okay, the crown jewel. It's also known as the crown jewel. Author is Thiruvalluvar. Okay, there's 1,300 couplets. Okay, couplet means like 2 lines of the poem. That's rhythmic and they occur at the same time. Line duita. Even Shakespeare uses that technique. Okay, towards the end of his poems, it's called couplet. Okay, 2 phrases that complement each other. 2 lines of the poem that complement each other, one another. Okay, sometimes it could be they could rhyme, or sometimes it could be a continuation of 2 subordinate clauses together forming one single independent clause. Now it talks about the 3 divisions: Aram, Porul, Imbam. Okay, the 3 divisions of poem. Aram, it talks about virtue. Okay, the Porul kind of poem will talk about wealth and polity. The Imbam will talk about love. All you need to know is that Tirukural, also known as the crown jewel, was written by Thiruvalluvar. Okay, and other important Sangam works, Silapatikaram and Manimekalai. After 5 epics, okay, Silapatikaram and Manimekalai are known as the greatest twin Tamil epics. Silapatikaram and Manimekalai, you cannot study South India and not know these 2 epics. The rest of the 3 epics You just need to know the author and the book. Unknown author, but here Tirutaka Devar. Okay, so these are the 5 epics that you need to know. And Silapatikaram was written by Ilangbo Adikal. Manimekalai was written by Satanar. Okay, so the subject, the epic of Kanaki and Kovalan. It gives rich information on the Cholas, Pandyas, and Chera kingdoms, cities, and trade. Do you guys know the story of Silapatikaram? Have you guys, has anyone read? Okay, so I'll just give you guys a brief story, okay? It talks about a faithful wife and an unfaithful husband. Motara Maigige Tukaide, the guy falls in love with a courtesan of a court. I forgot the name. The name of the husband is Kovalan, and then wife is Kanaki. Kovalan leaves Kanaki, and then he falls in love with a courtesan of a court. And then he falls in love, and then he spends all his money on her, okay? On that girl. Lastly, he regrets his actions, but Kanaki still forgives him. Tala wife forgive Pure, and then both of them, they go back to their city, okay, the city of Madurai. And on their way back, the husband was accused of stealing a jewel, okay, and ina hoigina taige morai dishe, public khanbana taige morai dishe. Ina hoigina Kanaki bra plead kurishide court de mula mota ba chor granai, okay, because the jewel that Kanaki had utu do accusation la hisab de do chor gra la jewels kan tagishe Kanaki la hatte, because Kanaki and Kovalan, they became very poor. Because Kovalan, he spent all his money on that girl, and then they became poor. Kanaki la anglets kanna thurigina new life start hogana jahadam de khwala se. So ina hoigina motagi morai de, accusing him of stealing jewels, and then unfaithfully morai de. Ina morai de abiside Kanaki ra proof to anedo. But before Kanaki could reach to the verdict to already kodishe, and then already morai dishe. Ina hoigina do Pandya king la osade Kanaki ra udu tala anglets kanna tikha. Okay, English tikhaina kande kile mula mota ki morai dishe, mula mota iko kaldi kranai hoigina. And utu time de, the king was a very good king, okay, he was a Pandya king. The Pandya king do utu janigina heartbreak pra taibi muri jeshe, like surprise hoigina na the king bi morai deshe. Ina utu city Madurai city ge maigido usa uthigina tai curse kurse. And when she cursed the city, the entire city of Madurai burned. Okay, he ascends on the mountain, and then 14 days there, tai heaven jai to join Kovalan. That's the basic story. It's a very interesting story though, to join her husband. So it talks about the love of a wife. Okay, it's a little controversial. It's kind of like the story talks about the man being unfaithful and the wife continuously forgiving him. Okay, so maybe the people of the Tamil region maybe expected their wives to be faithful to their husbands. I don't know. Okay, it's just an assumption. This is the story of Silapatikaram. Aro Taijun la Pachala story as a mani mekalai do na. Taijun la Pachala story la continuation as okay. So that's the basic story. This is a Sangam. These are the major works not mentioned, not part of the Sangam period, but are important for your examination. The 5 great epics, okay, and the 18 minor works, out of which Tirukural is important, and we also have the Tolkappiyam, authored by Tolkappiyar, the earliest Tamil grammar. Okay, these are the books that you need to know about the Tamil literature. So Sangam literature, we've talked about Etu Tokoi and Patu Patu, the 10 ideals and 8 anthologies. It's up to you guys if you guys wish to memorize that. I haven't, I've never, and I would never. And the 10 ideals, I haven't, I would never. Only except if one is studying for UPSC. I don't think it's important for examination. Now, we will take a look at the Cheras, the Cholas, and the Pandyas. Okay, we will come to the Cheras, Cholas, and the Pandyas. Here, take a look at the Cheras, the Chera kingdom. Okay, their major port was Muziris. Okay, Muzuris, and again Tonti was also another important port. Tonti, and Nielsinda was another important port. Okay, so they practiced maritime trade. As you can see, they would reach the Arabian Peninsula if they trade from here all the way to those Ronaldo Khela jaga Saudi Arabia punjudo. Saudi Arabia Mediterranean Sea jabo, Mediterranean Sea bra Alexandria la city bra Rome jabo. I mentioned about it earlier. So Chera kingdom iniga trade kuruwo. Chola kingdom Tala Naga Patinam, Arika Metu, and Kaveri Patinam. Okay, the Cholas, major ports. These were the major ports, and sea routes across the Bay of Bengal to Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, China the opor de was Southeast Asia to southeast to Indonesia udahan hobo na to niche de bhi chai opor de bhi chai. Okay, and the Pandyas major ports Korkai, Alakan Kulam. These are the two important ports. Okay, so they would trade with Sri Lanka the thik niche de asna, and then the Gulf, Southeast Asia, Indonesia fane, and other lands. Okay, so this is the trade of the Cholas, Cheras, and the Pandyas. And if you look at the details, you will find the major exports and major imports, major exports, imports, major exports and imports. Okay, I will not be explaining that. I will skip that. And yeah, I will skip the rest since I've already explained most of it. Now we look at the Chola. Okay, so this is the Chola. If you look at the map, Chola do yede iniga but this is the full extent of the Chola country. Okay, eventually. For the sake of convenience, I've divided into Chola, Chera, and Pandyas, but the full extent of Chola dynasty once extended up to this much. Okay, so this is Chola. The Cholas were one of the three great Tamil powers of the Sangam age, along with the Cheras and the Pandyas. Okay, their heartland was the fertile Kaveri Valley in eastern Tamilikam. The Kaveri Valley is very important. The Chola country is also known as Kaveri Valley. Okay, they were great patrons of agriculture, trade, arts, and culture. Now, if you look at the symbol, these are the three symbols again. The Cholas, the symbol is tiger. The Cheras, bow, and then the Pandyas, fish. These are the three symbols that you need to memorize. Okay. So the Cholas, tiger. So we're studying about the Cholas, whose emblem is the tiger. Okay. So the Kaveri Valley was extremely fertile. Okay, rice and other crops formed the backbone of the economy. And if you look at the textile and crafts, we talked about Ureyur was famous for cotton textiles and weaving, and maritime trade. Kaveri Patinam, we talked about that in the earlier slide. And the sources of our knowledge about the early Cholas, the Sangam literature, and Ashokan inscription too mentions about the Cholas. And it mentions that the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas were kingdoms beyond his kingdom. He never conquered it, he never controlled it. Okay? Now we have archaeological evidences, right, such as pots, clothes, and other items. And we also have foreign accounts, Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. I don't know if you guys remember the book Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. Okay? I mentioned that about in the previous classes. You can go back and take a look at it. It also mentioned about the trade between India and Rome. Okay, so in which the Cholas are also mentioned in that book. And the great king in the early Cholas, we will only learn about one king, Karikara Chola. Okay, now if you look at it, see, Karikara Chola Ilam Setseni. Ilam Setseni traditionally regarded as Karikala's father, but they likely never asked it because it hasn't been established fully with full conviction. But we know that they had a very important king known as Karikara Chola. Okay, that's the only king you need to know about the Chola, early Cholas. Now he defeated a powerful coalition of the Pandyas, the Cheras, and other chiefs in the Battle of Veni. The Battle of Veni is a very important battle. And in this battle, Karikara Chola defeated the Pandyas and the Cheras. Okay, he also won the Battle of Wahipara uh, Wahiparan Dalai. Wahiparan Dalai, okay? That's also another battle. He is associated with expansion and Chola expeditions, including the Sri Lanka. He is most famous for Kaveri irrigation tradition. Okay, irrigation tradition, especially the construction of Kalanai, the Grand Anikat. This was constructed by Karikala Chola. Take a look at it. What a masterpiece, right? Imagine this being built during the ancient times. Kanalai, the Grand Anikat. Okay? It helped in irrigation and agricultural prosperity. So this was built by Karikara Chola. And after the Sangam age, the Chola power declined. Okay? The Cholas, they declined after the Sangam age, which means after 300 AD. The Chola power, they declined and they disappeared for quite a long time. For several centuries, the Chola Empire was no longer in existence. And in the 9th century, almost 600 years later, Vijaya Laya Chola revived the Chola power by capturing Thanjavur and laid the foundation for the later Chola Empire. We will learn about that much later on. Okay? We will learn about that much later on after we study the Guptas. Okay? And after we study some few other kingdoms, we will come back to South India again. For now, South India, we will only learn about the Cholas and the kingdoms immediately succeeding the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. And then we will switch back to, like I said, the Guptas, which came after the Kushanas. Right? Okay? Is that clear? Now, this is part 2. Like I said, Karikara Chola is the only king that you need to know about the early Cholas. Okay? So, these are the terms that you need to know. Velir. Okay, this is a term used in all the 3 kingdoms, the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. The Velir were called local chieftains. Okay, many minor chieftains under the Cholas were called Velir. Okay, this controlled smaller territories and could be either allies or rivals. Okay, now warfare was very central to Chola glory. Okay, they waged wars all the time, and heroic death was honored. Heroic death was honored. Natukal. The stones that were erected in memory of fallen wearers were called Natukal. Okay, these are the terms that you need to know. And we talked about the 5 landscape, the Kurinci Mula, and so forth. The religious. This is very important. Their local god was called Murugan. Murugan was their local deity, and Mayon was another form of Vishnu. Okay, and they also had Gorovai, a local god. So they worship ancestors and the heroes, and there was a presence of Jainism and Buddhism along with Brahmanical traditions. Okay, but they coexisted and they tolerated one another. So hero stone, don't forget about the hero stone. And daily life, people engage in farming and fishing. See, fishing is obvious, right? They live in coastal areas, and farming is everywhere. So farming and fishing will always be the default feature of both the Cholas, Cheras, as well as the Pandyas. Okay. So after the Sangam period, like I said, they lost power. The political situation in Tamilakam became fragmented. Tamilakam means that all the 3 kingdoms combined. Okay, the Pandyas and Cheras, they gained strength in the regions. The Calabra period brought major changes and disruption in the traditional. We will learn about the Calabra revolt, the Calabra period later on. From early Cholas to imperial Cholas, like I said, the early Sangam Cholas, which we're studying right now, spanned from 300 BC to 380, and for about 600 years, it was almost non-existent. And after which Vijayalaya revived the Chola Empire in around 800 CE and kept by capturing Thanjavur. Okay, and we will see the foundation of the imperial Chola Empire, Rajendra I, all the important temples like Kongwa Cholapuram, all these temples, you will learn about that later on in imperial Chola Empire. So we will only learn up to this. Okay, we will only learn up to this, and then we will move back to North India, and then we will come back to this later on. Okay, in the end, I will connect everything, don't worry. I'll give you guys 5 to 6 pages that we can memorize together in 2 to 3 hours inside the classroom, and then you will have the entire picture. I'll also memorize it with you guys. Later on, after the end of our history session, I will connect all the pieces together. Now, the Cheras, okay? The Cheras. Again, the Cheras, they resided in this part of the territory. We have the Western Ghats, right? The mountain, the Western Ghats. And the Cheras were one of the three great Tamil dynasties of the Sangam age. They ruled the western and southern part of Tamilakam, covering the regions between the Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea. This is the Arabian Sea. Its Western Ghats is somewhere around here, okay? Western Ghats is somewhere around here. And between the Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea, which means this area was the area that they controlled, okay? And important centers, we talked about Muziris, Tonti, and Nelsinda. And this is a symbol of the Cheras. This is a symbol of the Cheras, bow. The agriculture, the land was fertile between the Ghats and the coast. Paddy, millets, pulses, and so forth. Pepper was the most famous export of the Cheras. They might ask you in the examination. The rest you don't have to know, but pepper was the most famous export. Maritime trade, Muziris, Tonti, and Nelsinda, all these three centers were important for maritime trade. Okay, they had trade with West Asia, Egypt, and Roman Empire. Okay, so you saw the trade routes from India all the way till West Asia, Egypt, and the Roman Empire. Roman coins have been found in Chera regions. Okay, Roman coins. They just do not make assumptions. They concluded this fact because they found Roman coins in Chera regions. Now, sources of our knowledge, Sangam literature. I also talked about Ashokan inscription, which mentions that the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas were beyond the extent of his kingdom. Okay, archaeology, foreign accounts, parables of the Arabian Sea, and epigraphs, inscriptions. Okay. Now we look at the administration and polity. Hereditary monarchy was the feature common to all the kingdoms of Tamilakam, the Cheras, Cholas, and the Pandyas. Okay, this is the last fourth slide. We're almost done with today's class, so I hope please bear with me. The king was the supreme authority in administration, justice, and warfare. He was assisted by his ministers, the local chieftains, and velir. The local chieftains were called velir. I mentioned about that earlier, right? And okay, I will zoom it a little bit. Sorry. Yeah. Hereditary monarchy. The local chieftain was known as velir. And society and daily life, there will be fishermen, there will be warriors, farmers, traders, artisans, all played important roles. Okay. Now, hero stones, Natukal, I mentioned about that earlier. The 5 landscape too, I've mentioned about that earlier. The worship of religion, Murukan was the local god. Mayan was another form of Vishnu. I mentioned about Koravai, and there's another new one, Siva. Okay. All the features are very similar. If you study about the Cholas, it means you're studying about the Cheras and Pandyas. The terms such as velir, okay, and hereditary monarchy, and Murukan, Mayon, Koravai, all these are common for all the 3 kingdoms. Like I said, Naga Manu Nisna ze. One alag bhabe, but we follow the same culture, same belief system. We had animism, aro mohan food habits concept same as and all that. So very similar to us Nagas, the different tribes of Nagaland. Okay. Important places. Again, I mentioned that in the map. Now, decline of the Cheras. Okay, after the Sangam age, the power of early Cheras gradually declined, and rise of other powers. For several centuries, the Cheras disappeared from the political age. Now, just in the same way the Cholas, they also disappeared after 300 AD, and the Imperial Chola kingdom was founded by Vijayalaya, right? Towards the end of the 8th century. So similarly, Chera Perumals, okay? Later the Chera Perumals emerged in Kerala, and the Chera Perumals were predecessors of the later Kerala principalities. So later on, in the 8th to 12th centuries, again they rose, okay, and they were called Chera Perumals. They emerged in Kerala, which we will learn about that after we're done with the. We go back to North India. Now, important places. Everything is mentioned in the map. I've shown you in the map, so I will not be explaining that. Sorry. Yeah. Now the Pandyas. Okay. Pandya. It's called the land of pearls, like I said. Now the Pandyas were one of the three Sangam, great Tamil of the Sangam age. Same with the Cholas and Cheras. Okay, their ancient capital was Madurai, and then the popular port was Korkai. Okay, they were famous for pearls, maritime trade, and patronage of Tamil culture. So, the capital was Madurai, the ancient port was Korkai. That's it. That's all you need to know. The river Vaikai was an important river of the region. Now, agriculture, fertile land along the Vaikai river, paddy, millets, pulses, pearls and fisheries. Korkai was world famous for pearl fisheries. Okay, pearls. Okay, this is the Korkai along the coastal area, and the imports and exports you can learn about that later on. Religion, they patronize Hindu temples and deities such as Meenakshi. Okay, the Meenakshi was a deity. Murukan, the local god, same as the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. Okay, they supported Jain and Buddhist institutions, same with Cholas and Cheras. And this is the Meenakshi temple in Madurai. Okay, now if you look at the Sangam age and the post-Sangam age and the Pandya revival in the medieval Pandyas and the decline of invasions, you will find that just in the same way the Cholas, okay, they declined in 380 and it was revived by Vijayalaya in the last part of the 8th century, 9th century, sorry, in the 9th century, and even the Cheras too, right? In that same way, after 300 BC, the Pandya power declined. 3rd century due to the rise of the Calabar rule. Even for the Cholas, the factor was the rise of the Calabar rule. Even for the Pandyas, Calabra. Okay, we will learn about that in the next session. Because of the rise of Calabar rule, the Pandya power declined, but it did not disappear completely. Now, in 6th to 9th centuries, the Pandya dynasty revived, Madurai regained prominence, and culture flourished again. Now, medieval Pandyas. There's this thing called medieval Pandyas. The great Pandya Empire under Jata Varman Sundara Pandya. You don't need to know about all this, okay? You will learn everything in detail, but just for your what happened after the Tamil, after the Sangam age. Just to answer the question, I'm giving you guys a brief background on what happened after it, okay? And declining invasions from Delhi Sultanate. We will learn about the Delhi Sultanate weakened the Pandyas. Okay, so this is the story of these are the features of the Pandyas in a nutshell. Now part 2. Madurai was the heart and soul of the Pandya kingdom. I mentioned about that. The Pandya coins often show fish symbols, conch, bow, Tamil Brahmi legends. Okay. Now, if you look at the Pandya achievements at a glance, political strong kingdom, ruled from ancient Madurai, economic, pearl fisheries, very important, social, same with the Cholas and Cheras, cultural, same with Cholas and Cheras, religion, supported Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, external context, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, West Asia, and Roman world. Now, all the external context, okay, they applied both to Cholas and Cheras as well. So, the features are very similar for all the three kingdoms. And these are the important terms, Muvendar, okay, Korkai, Min, Vakai, Pearls, Tamil Brahmi. We've studied about all that in the earlier slides. So, yeah, that's it about the Pandyas. Now, This is a chronology of ancient history. The Sangam age, we just covered the Sangam age right now, the Cheras, the Cholas, and the Pandyas. Okay, the early historic kingdoms of South India. Next, we will learn about the Kalabras. And then we will learn about the Pallavas, the Pandyas, the Imperial Cholas, and the later Pandyas and other regional powers. Then we will switch back to the Gupta Empire of North India. The reason why we need to switch back is that after the end of the Gupta Empire, eventually there will be the invasion of the Muslims, and then the Muslims, with the invasion of the Muslims, Muhammad, Qori, and so forth, the Delhi Sultanate will be formed. And only after the Delhi Sultanate is formed can we go to this part of South India. So up to this we will learn Imanda Purwo, and then we will switch back to North India, and we will connect Kushanas with Guptas. We ended it in Kushanas, right, in North India, and then we will connect it with Guptas, and from Guptas all the way up till the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals. We will come back to serial number 7 here, the Delhi Sultanate, and we will complete it all the way till 13, all the way till Marathas, and then again we will complete the North India, and then European powers will start grow. Okay, so it's going to be very structured, very orderly, don't worry. So tomorrow we will deal with the Kalabras, the Pallavas, the Pandyas, the Imperial Cholas, as many as we can, but we will complete up to serial number 6. Okay, serial number 6, and then we will move back to the Gupta Empire, and from Gupta Empire we will go all the way up till the Delhi Sultanate, and then we will come back to South India. We cannot study number 7 without Delhi Sultanate. Okay, so we will exchange between South and North this way. I hope the first 3 kingdoms, the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas,